podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
The Six Nations is upon us, which could only mean one thing: bonus pods to slag our nearest and dearest rivals. Let's start the show. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Inch Pro Show, your home for all things Irish rugby from across the professional and amateur men's and women's game. Joining me tonight is a very newly assembled panel, as you can see. Coming in the blue corner, back with us the second time this week, unlike the rest of the lads, David is with us. David, thank you very much. And also moving across the global game line sphere is Women's Rugby Treehouse co-presenter. I think co-presenter is fair enough. I don't know how it works, to be honest. Hattie is with us. Hattie, I'll bring you in first of all. It's great to have you on. It's great to merge two podcasts together, even though I didn't realize you'd be going for 2.5 hours during the week, so you must be a little bit exhausted.
Yeah, Women's Rugby Cheat House, Yap City. We did go on significantly longer than we expected. I apologise for anybody who has watched that. Yeah, it's rather long.
I may have skipped to the Irish section. I'll hold my hand up. I may have skipped to the Irish section.
Fair enough.
You know, yeah. And I did enjoy it. So that's all we need. And we also have an extra voice for this week and a Munster voice to make up for everything else. Sorry, had to be done. Coming over to us from, well, I suppose a sister podcast, a friends podcast, the Mother Rucker podcast, the home of all things Irish women's rugby. We have Ailbhe and Nolan as well. Ailbhe, it's great to have you with us. Do you want to just give us a little quick overview on Mother Rucker for anyone who doesn't know about it?
Absolutely. So we started Mother Rucker about this time last year. We're episode 19 in. So we covered the Women's Six Nations last year into the Rugby World Cup. So great year to start it. And we're back around the Women's Six Nations. And it's just covering just the Irish women's team. So any of their squad announcements and then sort of some game coverage as well.
Yeah, well, it's great stuff. I know you have Chloe Pearce on there. You'll have special guests. And of course, friend of myself and David's, Keenan Willor, is there as well to add some provincial barbs, I think is what we call it. But
he's a token male.
Look, we won't get into that. But across tonight's show, we've got loads to discuss. Of course, obviously, the Women's Six Nations is on our doorstep. We have team sheets. We'll go through all of that. We'll go through the Ireland squad, the Ireland-England game. We have the excitement about it all as well. Hard to believe it's 6 months since the World Cup came to a conclusion. Time has absolutely flown by, but also means that we have the Red Sea parting. We've got new avenues opening up. We've got new stadia. We'll get onto that in just a minute. But David, I will let you finally open your mouth and get a little bit of a word in here. The Women's Six Nations, as I said, starts in less than 48 hours. How excited are you for this year's edition?
Yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. I can't wait. I've got my tickets for the Scotland game. I'm hoping to get it to at least either Galway or Belfast as well. It's really exciting. Like it can be a thing of you forget until team sheets come out exactly, what we're dealing with, and then that came out, and I was like going through like 1 to 15. I was like, oh man, we got a really good team this year. This is looking really really positive, and yeah, it's really easy to get excited when the team looks like that. It's been a struggle at times for Irish women's rugby for a variety of reasons. And it's just really good to see some of the good work that's been put in over the last few years come to fruition, and some of the players who've been like threatening to break out, like ready to go now. And yeah, no, that team it's such an exciting team to come out. I actually used to work with Erin King's uncle, so we were chatting about it a while back. It's just such a cool thing to see what she's gone through with her injury to come back and now captain the team, and then just to see like that centre pairing. Me, I've got a soft spot for centres, and to see Eve Higgins and Aoife Dalton line up there, it's just I can't wait. It's going to be a hell of a tournament, hopefully.
Yeah, it is absolutely finely poised, but not only here, but also over in the UK. And as we said, the World Cup in England was a phenomenal success. Hattie, I know you made it to a couple of games. How is the perception over there right now? Because obviously we have England, we have the Red Roses, we'll get onto them a little bit later on, but we also have like Scotland are going to Murrayfield for the first time. We've got things like this, the Principality this weekend, which we'll go on to in a minute. It feels like the game is in such an upward trajectory, and everyone is ready to grab on.
Yeah, I definitely say it has blown up a lot. I live in England, but I'm a Wales fan. I would say that actual like PWR games, the regular season tickets, I believe, at almost every club has gone up. General attendance has gone up. Um, I think one of the things I find really interesting is that so I'm a Loughborough Lightning season ticket holder, which is up in Northampton, and there are teenage boys going to games. Which, you'd expect teenage girls, you'd expect kids being dragged along, you would expect, women my age, whatever. But to have just like groups of teenage boys because they're out and it's a Saturday or a Sunday and they want something to watch, I think that's really cool. So to see things like that happening, I think it kind of shows that there is some real change. Also media wise, it's everywhere. I know that the Telegraph, they had their like an input. Whereas usually you get nothing for the Women's Six Nations, whereas this time, there's a whole feature kind of midweek. So it's really, really exciting to see. And things have massively changed since the World Cup.
Yeah, no, it has. And even here, like I know I've had my own slight qualms about the level of coverage this week, but it is a bank holiday. There is an awful lot on. I understand why it's a little bit condensed, but it just does feel a little bit of a bigger deal. And like having been over there at the World Cup, it was that way. Like there was, myself, I went over, met a friend over there, met another friend over there, and met a friend who came down from Leicester for the game in Brighton. Like there was a real kind of like, let's all go to this. It's a World Cup. It's no
Mm.
longer seen as it's the Women's World Cup. And I think the Women's Six Nations is starting to take on that mold. But Alva, like it's funny because I was having this conversation with someone earlier, and David kind of alluded to it there. This is probably one of the deepest Ireland squads we've had in a long time. And like some of these names won't be known to everyone, but like of the players not included, Sive McGrath, Sam Monaghan, Jane Clossie, Del McMahon, Aoibhinn Riley, Katrina Finn, Enya Breen, Emily Costigan, Chisholm Aguero. And that's before you get into your Maeve Ogues and your Leah Tarpies and your stars at the interprovincial level. Like it's so deep the game in Ireland right now. And like go back 5 years ago and we would have discussed it at the time. It felt like we'd never get out of the pit. And now it's like, well, it's our turn to be up there alongside England and France. It's incredible.
Yeah, like there's been an incredible turnaround, and I think much of it has been under Scott Beam. I was looking back at some stats recently. I think 2023 might have been the year that we got the wooden spoon, no wins at all. Absolute rock bottom. When we thought we'd been at rock bottom already, we dropped a little bit further. Um, I think the coach before Scott Beam and Greg McWilliams had 27 new caps across 18 months, where he was throwing players on the pitch. Players were walking away from the IRFU. Players were protesting and being excluded. It was an absolute shambles. The IRFU went and changed across the board. So many more women in pivotal roles, women on the board. And then Scott Beeman comes in. And what we've seen is a turnaround that honestly, if you told me 3 years ago this was going to happen, I would have told you absolutely not, not a hope. Looking back at some stats from 2023, going into the Six Nations across a squad of 23 in one of the games, I think it was our opening game, we had 212 caps across the 23. That's an average of 6.6 caps per player, which is nothing. Our highest cap player at the time was Linda Dugang with 27. Going into this year's Six Nations, 508 caps across the 23. That's 22.1 caps per person, which we've more caps across the pack alone, excluding the backs, excluding the bench, than we had 3 years ago across the whole 23. What I think we've done to the game is we've managed to build that depth slowly over time. Scott Beamont has done something incredible in terms of really, really getting buy-in. I spoke to him, at the launch in London, and he spoke about wanting to make the players desperate for the jersey. And I think he's done exactly that. There's not anybody who's going to walk away at a protest. There's no reason to anymore. But players want that jersey. Players want to play for their country more than ever, I would say. And it shows.
Yeah, no, it does. And like the only players that are stepping away from the central system now are players who are more on the fringes and saying, well, I can always be called back up and I'm going to focus on work for a little while because it is year one of a 4 year cycle. They're going to see it that way as well. And I think it is incredible the kind of the journey that we've been on, but also that ties into the global game as well. And Hattie, you're going to be in the Principality Stadium. I hate calling it the Principality. It's the Millennium Stadium. I always have to check myself with these things. Same, it's the Heineken Cup as well. It's not the Champions Cup, but you're going to be in Cardiff for this one. And like I know it's not the first time the Wales have played there, but the fact that the Principality, Murrayfield, Aviva Stadium, Twickenham are all being used. And I know Stade de France isn't, but the stadium in Bordeaux is absolutely massive as well.
Massive. Yeah.
Like you're talking about some of the biggest and best rugby venues in the world are being used
Mm.
in this tournament. Whereas, 3, 4 years ago, if you go back to like 2020, it was championship standard. It was, Donnybrook, which was not up to scratch. It's changed massively and changed for the better, but overdue is still it still came eventually.
Yeah, it's absolutely mad. Like I was looking earlier on today actually at some venues where games have been played, and 15 years ago, England were playing at Old Albanian Saints, which is I played there actually. It is literally just it's a fancy clubhouse, but it's still just a regular grassroots clubhouse. It's where Saracens train sometimes. Like that's it. Like sometimes they were playing in fields, and so to now, even pre-COVID, where they were playing, it's mad where it's come. I do really, really like that it's, especially with England, which I don't love that, it has to be England. It's always England with the Six Nations. But like it is quite cool that they've basically sold out that state. They've sold out Twickenham essentially. I think they're a couple of thousand off. It's not, oh, it's a special occasion anymore. It's, oh, we're playing in London, so we're playing in Twickenham. And I really, really hope that moving forward, it's the same, with Ireland, because I know you've moved around the country. Oh, we're playing in Dublin, we're playing at the Aviva. I would love to see the Principality fill up a bit more. I think from what I've seen of tickets, it's mostly the lower and the middle bowl. It's the Principality is huge, and when the roof is closed and it's not full, it echoes. So that is a slight concern, but we don't really have anywhere else in Wales to go. We've got Cardiff City, which is a terrible place to play rugby. The pitch is not for rugby at all. I think the last time we had Judgment Day there, I think there was like 3 knee injuries across the 2 games. So I'd rather we didn't do that for the Six Nations. Or we're heading all the way out to West Wales to play at the park. So we don't have a lot of option in Wales about where we're playing if we're moving out of CAP. So yeah, it'll come, it'll build. I think Scotland's going to be interesting to see how many people they can get in. It's the first time they're playing. They've played double headers in the past, but this would be the first time that it's just them. But I really, really hope that France sort of get with it and next year are playing in Paris, because I would not be surprised if they sell that out. They could have sold that out this year easily.
Yeah, that's the thing. And like, look, selfishly, like maybe 2 years' time, if they went to Paris and went to the La Défense Arena and played Ireland there, because it's a bucket list venue for me. I'm just kind of just kind of speaking out loud there. But it's all like as you kind of said, like it is great to see, and it is like Ailbhe. I'm sure you've heard the stories from like I don't know if it was Niamh Briggs or Fiona Coughlin or whoever used to talk about playing in Ashburn. You could smell the chip fan when you're playing, and it was nauseating. But now, and like obviously the Grand Slam game of 2013, which famously like players were nearly getting frostbite on the sidelines. But now you transform over to now, and like we're actually having the conversation now of like, geez, it'd be great if we got more people into the game in Belfast, not anything else. And that's still Ravenhill. That's still an unbelievable, like a fortress, a hallowed ground of Irish rugby. So like it just shows how much it has changed, but also it shows how much the fan appetite has grown as well. That people are like ticket sales for the Dexcom is really, really good. Like people are really like buying into it as well.
Yeah, I remember those days in Ashburn all too well. And the floodlights going out, and no slight to Ashburn. It was fabulous venue for what it was at the time. The club looked after everybody very well, but like that, it was just it wasn't where the game really wanted to be. We wanted to grow it so much more. And we moved into Energy Park or Donnybrook, which was again another step up for the game and great. But we are in a new era of the game entirely. Looking at the Aviva, there are nearly 17,000 tickets. Little birdies tell me that usually about 50% of the tickets are sold within the Six Nations competition. So, that alone at 17,000 is almost double our previous record, which is down in Musgrave Park, 9,000-ish against England. So, in the space of 1 year to nearly double your ticket sales is unheard of. The Dexcom I'm hearing in Galway is almost sold out. We weren't talking about that 5, 6 years ago. It just wasn't realistic. It was get to the match. We'd love people to come to the match. We'd love buses of kids to come to the match to fill out the stadium a little bit. Now we're talking about a cacophony of noise in a big stadium. No, we're not going to fill the stadium, but we're on that journey. We're looking at what England are doing. And I think, Hattie, very much Wales are looking at that journey too. Wales are very much on the rebuild 1 year in with Sean Lynn. Things are on the up and up, and they will continue hopefully on the up and up and build with it as well. And I think, I'd hope that, no team is left behind. Italy doing well, France arguably could market their game probably a little bit better. But I think the world is women's rugby's oyster at the moment, and it's fabulous to see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And David, like we've spoken so much about representation on this podcast. I think one of the issues with the games in Donnybrook was like you're going up to Dublin again. Why can't this game be played in? I know the clams around here used to always be like Dewberry Park, for instance, Musgrave Park. They eventually got their games 2 years later, and after COVID, from 2022 onwards or 2023 onwards, they started getting games. But the fact that it is going around is kind of what helps grow that as well. And we've spoken about this so many times. Like you can have the World Cup, that's a moment in time, that's done. It's how you build on it. And bringing it to the cities, bringing a first test match to Galway in, I think it's like nearly 25 years since there was a test match in Galway. That's obviously going to bring buy-in because you've got Bevan Parsons, Anna McGann, and a bunch others who are from the area. So it is a natural kind of progression point, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's like it's such an opportunity with the women's game in that it there's obviously stuff we'd like to emulate in terms of the profile, but there's loads of mistakes in the men's game, like across the board. Some of it's structural, some of it's just the nature of the game. We'd love to see games played outside Dublin, but that stadium is constantly sold out too. Um, you know, there's no reason to, I think if Irish rugby has had a criticism, it's that it's been overly Dublin centric, it's been overly Leinster centric. There's no reason to do that with the women's game, particularly when the player base is so much more spread out and when there is the opportunity to build support. Why wouldn't you build it in all four corners? So the fact that we're going out to Galway, it's perfectly timed because they've got this fabulous new stadium. I don't know if everyone's been to the Dexcom, but it's class. Like it's one of the better stadiums in Ireland now. Hopefully we can get close to selling it out. Bring it up to Belfast. Like it just gives the opportunity to build a much broader fan base. And there's loads of people in Ireland who aren't in Dublin, so there's no reason not to build there. When it comes to the club game, like the opportunities there, England have done such, again, not to constantly compliment them, but they've done such a great thing building the club game there. It'd be great. Like that's obviously, hopefully, the next step would be to have club competition like that for Ireland. And if we could get maybe involved, maybe there's a Celtic League, maybe something could be worked there. But like, I think there's so many opportunities to make the women's game better, like a more functional, more sensible, a more sustainable system than the men's game, because the men's game has so many problems on that front. I think we can not make those mistakes again, and like in the process build really strong fan bases in all four corners of Ireland. I think it just makes complete sense. And looking at the ticket sales, I checked there as well. The Clan stand is already sold out for the Ireland Italy game. There's still tickets going in the other stands, but that's the main bulk of the stand in Galway, and it's already sold out. So I'm sure Belfast will sell similarly well. It makes sense to do, and it's the right thing to do, because yeah, when you've got players like Bevan Parsons, why wouldn't you reward the place that she's from? That's how you build more support there. That's how you get more players coming out of there. And yeah, I think it would be great if we could have proper player streams coming from all four provinces, because definitely the one place that the two codes don't differ is there's such a draw on players. Like there's like from every other sport in the country wants our best athletes. And if we want the best female athletes in the country to be playing rugby, then we should be playing rugby in all four corners of Ireland. And so far, like that seems to be, what we're aiming to do, and that's great.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's kind of funny because I was only just going back when I messaged Hattie to come on. I realized that our first message was me telling you that the Aviva game was about to be announced because it was kind of doing the rounds here in Ireland, but it was not like fully confirmed.
Yeah,
And
and
go on.
sorry, it was funny because I was like, I know what this is. Like, this is a game at the Aviva, and I like tweeted it as a
Mm,
guess, and you messaged me immediately being like, "Yeah, that's what it is." But
yeah.
everyone else was like, you saw male fans being like, "Is it in New Jersey?" No,
Yeah, not
clearly.
not not mid World Cup. There wasn't going to be a New Jersey mid World Cup, but it like and it to tie into that, what I was going to say was I'd heard 2 years ago when the Dexcom is done, they're going to go to the Dexcom. Do you know, it was always like, and it's the fact that we've gone from a position where nothing felt planned to everything feels 2, 3 steps ahead. I think it is testament to not just the IRFU, but the people they brought in, and even small things. And we'll get onto it probably in a minute because she's going to win her 50th cap, bringing someone like Cleveland Maloney McDonald back into the fray, having been so villainized. Is that the right word? Like potentially, like just to make steps like that is really important. But we're going to get into the Ireland squad now in just a second. I probably should have had it ready before I started talking because I'm a little bit on delay. But the Ireland squad was named 2 weeks ago, and it is pretty strong. There's now 10 uncapped players in it, two of which set to make their debuts this weekend. For anyone on YouTube, you'll have it up, and on Spotify streams where we do very, very well, you'll see it there. Just to run through, it's Niamh O'Dowd, Elena Perry, Eilish Cahill, Niamh Jones, Cleena Maloney MacDonald, Beth Buttimer, Linda Dewgang, Sive McGrath, Sophie Barrett. Sam Monaghan, Dorothy Wall, Aoibhinn McGrath, Ruth Campbell, Jane Clossie, Brittany Hogan, Fiona Chute, Aaron King, the Ireland captain, Ailish Quinn, Aoife Wafer, Grace Moore, and Jemima Adams Verling in the forwards, with Aoibhinn Riley, geez, I should know that name of all of them, Aoibhinn Riley, Emily Lane, and Katie Whelan as the scrum halves, Katie Whelan and late call up. Dan O'Brien, Katrina Finn as the out halves, Anna McGann, Lana McInerney, Bevan Parsons, Vicky Elms Kinlan, and Robin O'Connor are the wings. Eve Higgins, Enya Breen, Aoife Dalton, Nancy McGillivray are the centres, and Stacey Flood and Niamh Gallagher as the full backs. And I suppose, Alva, I'll start with yourself because you probably have the most comprehensive research done so far. Although I know Hattie's spreadsheet was actually quite phenomenal, and I do recommend checking that out on the Glow Again channel. But 10 new caps in an Ireland squad in a Six Nations. I'm not saying we're in the Matrix, but this is not something we'd ever be saying in January or February, that's for sure.
No, I think, like I kind of spoke about earlier, new caps in the past were, okay, well, we've lost this experience, we've lost that experience. Who's next in line? Now it's we have the experience and we're building in that depth. I'm really, really happy to see like the likes of Eilish Cahill. Eilish Cahill has been, brilliant with Munster. Had a bit of an injury with Bowes during the year with AIL, but came back from it strong as ever. Last year she scored the winning penalty for UL Bowes in the Aviva. So she's not unaccustomed to the Aviva, but seeing the likes of her coming in and going to get her first cap off the bench, it's not kind of, oh, we're looking at kind of, oh, a bit of weakness. We'd like to just keep our front row on. No, we have serious depth, and we have players to come on and add that depth and be fresh legs and be strong against a heavy English pack. You look at the hooker position as well. For the last few years, we've had Niamh Jones and Cleena Maloney McDonald. Now that she's back in the squad for the last kind of 2.5 years, and it's hard to pick who's right for the game. If you want power, you're going with Cleena Maloney McDonald. If you want somebody to absolutely wreck the opposition's head, you're going with Niamh Jones, who is a phenomenal operator, in the loose, but at the ruck as well. To have those options is kind of, it feels like new territory again. It's odd to be able to strategize. I want this player for this role. I want that player for that role. Our back row is just incredible. Like, good luck to anybody coming up in the game and hoping to get a cap at back row, because the competition there is absolutely phenomenal. Aaron King, our captain, only has 7 caps. in 15s. But she is absolutely on the team sheet. She obviously got an injury and missed out in the World Cup. But Jesus, you're handing a jersey to her any day. The hunger that woman has. And it's a little bit weird to be saying, you're not going to miss the likes of Tricky Ailbhe McMahon as much as you might think, because we've got so much depth. We won't even mention Aoife Wafer because she's mentioned in every conversation. Everybody knows how powerful she is. Looking at the back line, David, you touched on it earlier, the kind of Higgins Dalton axis. First on your team sheet any day. They're phenomenal. They work really, really well together. They communicate incredibly well together. I know that Dalton is, I suppose the kind of captain of the defense in the back line. She is the one that everybody speaks to about the defense, and she gives cues in the defense, and she's really, really good. That woman can read a shooting line phenomenally well. And then you mentioned Katie Whelan. Only drafted into the squad quite late. She's actually Dana O'Brien's partner, so that's going to be quite interesting to see them at 9 and 10, hopefully later in the game. But it's fabulous to see that we do have that depth to push somebody like Evie Riley out of the squad. Would have been unfathomable even a year ago. She's so, so good. But Katie Whelan can play and can really, really play. She's beautiful crisp ball, kind of a lively operator as well. So the depth across that squad is just phenomenal. I'm pinching myself.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And even like to focus in on 9 for a minute now, the RFU did say that Avian Riley is one of the players ruled out through injury, in fairness to her. But I was surprised to see Emily Lane, her last start was this fixture last year. Like she did have to bide her time. Molly Scofield-McCabe kind of got in ahead of her at WXV, and Avian Riley in kind of the back half of the year. But you mentioned leadership, and leadership is very important because, Hattie, I'm going to bring you in on this. You touched on this. Our rebuttal would be look at Celtic Challenge and look at how Aoife Dalton, Ruth Campbell, they were captains. They're very clearly focused. Scott Beaman obviously has a huge say there, especially with Dennis Fogarty as one of the head coaches. But clearly there's a focus there. So Emily Koskinen is gone, Sam Monaghan is injured, Adele McMahon is gone. But now the onus is on Niamh Jones, who has captain Ireland before, albeit she is on the bench in this game. Aoife Dalton, as you said, Erin King is a new captain. And even the likes of, Brittany Hogan, she's 27 now. She's got, over 30 caps. She's going to be another one. And I suppose, Hattie, I'm not going to call you out and say you're wrong, but from a neutral perspective, it's probably an understandable fear to say that Ireland might have a little bit of a leadership vacuum, even if they are working on it.
Yeah, I think as a neutral, I think I was looking at Erin King and I was like, I can understand why she's been picked as captain. She is somebody that you obviously, she's one of the first people on the team sheet. From a really boring perspective, she is contracted, whereas the likes of Aoife Wafer is not. She's playing her game in Ireland. She's not playing overseas. So I do understand why. She's very lively. She's got big name recognition, having been breakthrough player of the year, etc., etc. I do think that there are leadership options even within the starting 15 who aren't Erin King. If I was going to pick a captain for Ireland, which obviously I'm one, not Irish, and two, not a coach, I probably would have gone with Brittany Hogan. She's got experience. She was Ulster captain before. I think she's got a really, really good head on her. That would have been my choice personally. That she's probably going to play a full 80 if she can. She is just an absolute weapon. I'm not as worried about leadership this time round as compared to the absolute menace like 2 years that you had where like 18-year-olds were going out uncapped and poor Dana was just thrown in at 10 at like 18. It's not that. I think there are plenty of leadership options. I think it's picking somebody and have them develop over these next 4 years rather than having somebody in for a season and then out again and dropping out because the pressure is too much and everything's kind of gone to shit, which unfortunately has happened with quite a lot of Irish women's captains, which is unfortunate. But it's the same in Wales. People complained about Kate Williams coming in as captain. I'm a big Kate Williams fan, so I don't mind. But But yeah, I think it is an interesting choice, especially with 7 caps. That's a lot of pressure to put on someone. But she has got other people behind her, hopefully, to back her up.
Yeah. And there is definitely a vibe because naturally we kind of heard these people, at the launch day with the likes of yourself, Alva, or the BBC, or with Virgin Media, whoever was over covering it. Like you kind of get a read on these people. You don't like to psychoanalyze anyone, but you do listen to Erin King. You're like, yeah, no, she is. There's a sharp head on those shoulders. Like in fairness to her, I know she is only 22, but you can see what Scott Beeman sees as well. And like, I think Alva, I don't know if you made the point or Chloe or Keen on the podcast of like that tap and go in the WXV game against New Zealand that time. Like that is the kind of instinctive, that's the brand they're trying to bring in. Gareth Steeds had spoken about this on the BBC podcast, which I know I'm dropping podcast names left, right, and center tonight, but do go listen to it. Like he was really good about like we want to play an attractive brand of rugby, but a winning attractive brand of rugby. And that's always the line the coaches leave out. They never like they always overlook that, but it is so important. And he's doing a fabulous job, and he's going to be nurturing. He's the best choice to nurture 2 young 10s that's in the IRFU currently. But David, to kind of bring you back in here, there are elements of Ireland's depth chart that is stronger than others. We do have two uncapped or three uncapped, front rows, for example, involved. But the thing is, Eilish Cahill is 24. She's the AIL Player of the Year. You go to someone like Katrina Finn, who's the second choice 10 currently. She was probably the Interpros Player of the Year if you wanted to pick one last year. She's only 19, but she's loads of experience. Niamh Gallagher, a trail finder's loads of experience. Alana McInerney as well. So it's not like, as kind of Hattie and Ailbhe were alluding to, it's not like before where it was players who were just like turn 18 into the sevens program, into the 15s program. Now it's players who've had like 2 or 3 Interpro championships, a full AIL season, a full season of S&C, and that's when they're stepping up. And that is hugely important when we get into this 5 game slog of the Six Nations, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's always a like it's a really tough kind of window. Like you're not going to play that many games in a row outside of a World Cup, and even then, only if you're doing really well. So it's that kind of like baseline fitness, particularly as the tournament progresses. It's going to be a tough start for Ireland against England. We're going to look to be putting in some of our stronger performances, hopefully, down the line, particularly when it comes to that Aviva Stadium game. So having players who have that kind of that baseline and who have who aren't like, this is what they're able to put their 100% focus into is going to be a huge thing. And like there's also an underlying advantage to having those players also be younger because it's just easier to build that kind of fitness and to maintain that kind of resilience and toughness when you are that age. I know, unfortunately, it was much easier to do things at 22 than it is now at 32. So like the fact that we have players that age who already not only have the age advantage, but then also have that level of fitness and that level of experience and have played the games and have played the games at that level. The fact that the standard below international level has been brought up is only going to be a huge advantage, and it means that the jump up isn't as much of a jump. And that hopefully when it comes to facing up against teams like England and like France, who would have in the last few years had such a seismic really advantage over the team that'll be hopefully shortened a little bit, and that these players can bring what they've brought to the club game now to a test environment that they will be far less out of the depth, won't be out of the depth at all really stepping into. And I think that's both it's a testament to them and their effort, and then a testament to like the work done through the new systems and the contracts that are being put in, and like it's only the start. Like hopefully it builds even more, and like it'd be great if we could have basically all of our players playing club rugby week in, week out. But until we do, this is like the perfect level to kind of springboard off of. And hopefully, by the time we get to round 4 and 5 of the Six Nations, we'll still have a rock solid squad of hopefully mostly uninjured players who, if anything, are only just getting better as the tournament goes on and they're able to show more and more at this level. So yeah, no, hopefully that work it shows as the tournament progresses.
Yeah, I think I do firmly believe that's the direction we're going in. Like I spoke to Maeve Deely, who was involved in the Ireland's World Cup squad last year, about 2 years ago when Scott Beeman had just came in, and you did like even back then you got the vibe of like they're putting plans in place. He was involved in Celtic Challenge selection. It was, the coaching staff were heavily involved even from then. I know that was in its infancy at the time as well. But just straight away, it just felt like everything was a joined up approach. And this is a horrible segue. Speaking of joined up approach, that's how we do things here on the Global Game Line channel. We are, of course, in the midst of a very busy time of year with the Women's Six Nations. So do follow the Women's Rugby Treehouse. Do give them a listen. Give a listen to Rap as well. And of course, ourselves at the Interpro Show. And as we said before, we are looking for hosts for provincial podcasts set to drop next season. So leave a comment down below if you are interested. I know there's plenty of people who like to drop comments down below. So put your face to where your mouth is if you want, guys. Like, absolutely feel free. You could also message myself or the show on Twitter. And of course, remember to like and subscribe to get all the latest global Gainline content on this channel. But we're going to run into the fixtures now because one of the big talking points before the men's championship was how they reverted to a new format with 3 games, one rest, excuse me, one rest week, and then 2 games. And they've decided to follow into that for the Women's Six Nations as well. I'll pull it up on screen in just a minute, but as we said, Hattie, go on.
We've actually only had one rest week in the Women's Six Nations for a long time.
That is my fault. Thank you very
Sorry.
much for correcting me.
Since it's moved back, we've only ever had one rest week.
Okay, I did not know.
Yeah.
I did not notice. To
Yeah.
be fair, it's not that I don't see the games; it's the fact that I was chasing my tail for most of last April.
I don't blame anyone.
Yeah,
It's unless you're, one of the weird people that have women specific podcasts, you wouldn't necessarily realise that very minute detail.
fair. Ailbhe, you're on mute there. Sorry.
Apologies. Interesting thing for this year, though, is that, correct me if I'm wrong here, Hattie, all of the games are always on a Saturday. So we have
Apart
Super
from
Saturday.
the final week, which they're all on
Yes.
Sunday.
Yes, but we have Super Saturday, Super Saturday, Super Saturday, like,
Super Sunday.
yes. Oh, hook it to
I
my
hate
veins.
it.
I love it. Get the kids out of the house. My day.
We'll pause that for a second, so we'll get onto that because we can run through the fixtures in just a minute. Ailbhe, you're a big fan of that. I'm mixed. I'm not sure if I do like it because it makes everything very condensed. Why are you in favor of 4 Super Saturdays and 1 Super Sunday? Super Sunday is different in fairness.
Probably more so because I have kids. And trying to take over the telly 2 days in a row, very difficult. So yeah, hoof them out, go to soft play, and I get to watch rugby. Yeah, brilliant.
That's a fair shout. Hattie, on your side of the coin, what's your take on it?
I don't love it. 2 reasons. I do think for me, like, I know that I can't fully enjoy more than like 3 games of rugby in a day, any more than that, and I'm watching, but I'm not actually taking any of it in. But also, I think it's a hard sell to have 3 games in one day to a casual viewer. I think if you've got somebody who's like, oh, I'll put the rugby on because it's an international, 3 games in one day is a lot.
That's a good point.
I also don't particularly love it as somebody who like travels to games as well. Like, I know that, oh, I'm going to miss this game. And, if it was 2 games on one day, oh, I might miss that game because I'm traveling to X place and I'll catch up when I get back. Actually, if there's 3 games in one day, I'm going to have to catch up on 2 games and watch them, not watch them live. I don't love it.
Yeah, no, that last point is probably the one that I'd focus on because, like, take the first home game against Italy. Ireland play at 5:40, Munster play at 7:35. So feasibly you can catch both, especially if you're at home. If you're at it, you're going to miss something. And like, there's always that give and take. Now, in fairness, the Connacht game that day is at like 1 o'clock, so Connacht fans can absolutely do both. I know Connacht are down in South Africa; they won't do both in attendance, but they could do both in terms of watching. And similarly for Ireland and Wales, there's just that like it's not a lack of joined up thinking. It's not that, but it is just the fact of like when we're trying to get as many eyeballs onto these games, because obviously in Ireland they are free to air. They have been free to air for the last 4 or 5 years in terms of the whole tournament itself. I think since 2022. So it's trying to get as many eyeballs onto it as is possible. But I will throw over the Irish fixtures now in just a second, which of course starts with this weekend's clash against England. And as I said, it is on to Galway then a week later to take on Italy. From there, France in the Stade Marcel Michelin in Clermont, another hallowed venue to be playing at. the Affidea Stadium or Ravenhill for Ireland against Wales. That's on the 9th of May after the solo gap week. I really do feel like a fool for getting that one wrong, to be honest, but it's better to learn. And then Super Sunday, Ireland against Scotland, Aviva Stadium, 2:30. Tickets are on sale. Please to get you in your droves. David, in terms of the lay of the land, it's hard to know what this brings up. Obviously the players would say we're excited to go to England first and Twickenham and 75,000 and all that, but it's tricky. And then you've got, France 2 weeks later. It is a tricky outlay, and we know that Six Nations is all about momentum, and it is very important. Like, do Ireland lose to Scotland last year if they didn't pick up a heap of injuries in their 2 games before that? Probably not. That's part of this tournament.
Yeah, it's a factor. It's a tough one to know because, like, yeah, the encounter could be bruising and that could take its toll. Hopefully, what we talked about before with the conditioning and the kind of the baseline built up, that'll, fingers crossed, be less of an issue. I think, going into this England game, it's going to be hard, and it's hard to envision any result other than an England victory. If that's the case, then I think it's if we look back on it on the tournament when it's done, I think a strong finish can make up for that in a way that like even a strong beginning doesn't really have the same feel. Like it's a weird one. Like trying to think of other tournaments where this has happened. Like even at the last, like I feel like the ending of a tournament can really it's what leaves the taste in your mouth. And if we finish strong, I think that'll end up being um kind of hopefully a remedy if the start goes a little bit rougher. I do think it's kind of almost if you're going to lose a game, it's kind of better to lose a game you're probably going to lose anyway. I think the England game could be it'll be a really interesting one to see where we are. I think I know where we hope we are, and I know where I hope we are. And I fully back the players to give a really good account of themselves. But I think if we can finish strong, particularly if we finish strong in Ireland, in the Aviva with a big crowd, I think that'll be a really good way for Ireland to finish the tournament. So yeah, no, I think there's a lot to be said for, and like obviously that's predicated on us still having the core squad, um, relatively un uninjured at that stage and being able to finish strong and ideally finish with a win. So it is contingent on that. And if that doesn't happen, particularly because we've lost players over the tournament, that'll be a major source of frustration. But I think the opportunity is there to kind of build as the tournament goes on. England is going to be a tough start. Then we have, Italy hopefully should be able to get something there. And France, obviously, very tough away again. But then to finish with the two home games in Belfast and Dublin, I think ideally we should be targeting 2 wins out of those games. And if that's how we finish the tournament, I think that's a really nice way to finish it out. So yeah, I think the structure could actually go in our favor a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I suppose, Alva, to kind of bring you back in, this is where, the lay of the land could become very important because if you're talking about selling tickets, there is a chance. And look, you have to go back to 2003 for the last time that, France lost at home to a team not named England in the Six Nations. But if Ireland do go to Claremont and they win, and they've shown to themselves that they can go 80 minutes with France, and a loophole in the laws that I don't agree with is the reason we didn't get a second bite of the cherry or third or fourth in the 80th minute last time out in Sandy Park. But if they can win that, you could potentially be looking at 3 wins in the bounce. Okay, it would be the most outside of outside chances to potentially win a title on the final day. But the buzz that would be coming in then automatically. If you have that, if you do have those 3 wins reeled off coming into Scotland in Lansdowne Road, it would be huge. And it would be like one of the only things that rugby fans in Ireland would be talking about in that given week. I know it's the week before the Heineken Cup final, and that famously has not gone well for one particular quadrant of this podcast. Sorry, Dave, but like it could be a massive moment if they do turn over France. But then there's also the element, are we getting ahead of ourselves? It's kind of tricky to know, isn't it?
Yeah, look, like the single greatest marketing tool for sport is success. Success breeds success. Success pulls in your crowds, but I think probably less so in the women's game. I think good atmosphere, good competition is the best draw as well for a women's game. Um, we've been knocking on the door of France for the last 2 years. 2 years ago we were looking at Jesus, is that one that got away? We did die off in the last 30 minutes of the game. Rugby World Cup, like you said, we should have had another bite of that cherry. And I think we would have turned them over at that point. And it was the semi-final that wasn't to be. Um, but I think, even looking at the English side, we got nilled by them in 21, in 22, in 23. In 24, okay, we put 10 points against them. One was a penalty try, and we shipped 88 points in their direction. So not particularly a competition. Last year, we opened the scoring 5 minutes in, Amy Lee Costigan scoring an absolute worldie off a boot from Dana. Um, Gave us a bit of hope. We still shipped 49 points then in England's direction. But I think this year we're going to see more fight against England. We're going to see us actually having the ability to score. England aren't at their full strength. Abby Dow, Emily Scarrett retired. Tatiana Hurd is out with foot injury. Zoe Stratford, Abby Ward, Lark Aitken-Davies, Rosie Galligan, all very well planned pregnancies, and the best of luck to them. But that's a lot of people missing. Yes, they still have an absolute world-class team, and they probably would have a world-class seconds team. But I think we could come out of the blocks and just give them a run for their money. My favorite thing for Scott Beeman ever to say is, I just want you to take shots. He keeps talking about taking shots. And I think it bolsters the team to just go, have a go at them. And I think we will. So I think, we'll have a go at England. I don't think we'll beat them. It wouldn't totally shock me if we beat France, but I think we'll give them a hell of a game if not. And then, yeah, going into those final three games with that big occasion in the Aviva at the end, I don't know. I think it's going to be a great year for Irish rugby. I'm really, really hoping for third again, if not second. It's
Yeah,
possible.
I laid it out in my preview piece during the week, and I was just kind of you go through the different permutations, you go through everything. You're like, well, if they beat France, like, would you take only a 2-win year? It's like kinda like it depends because that means losing one of your home games. You don't want to lose at home. Like
Yeah,
we've a great record at home, all things considered. Going back to that famous late was it Amy Lee Costigan try at the very end? No, it wasn't. Someone scored the last minute try. Was it Amy Breen up in Ravenhill in the horrible weather to beat Scotland? And ever since then, it's been Patty, do you remember?
I think
No?
it was a Enneabrine conversion. It was an
That sounds
Enneabrine
more
yes,
right.
kick.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was
And that was
in
the same game that Hannah O'Connor had like a penalty from beyond
Nearly the
halfway.
halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
basically from down in Kells. Yeah, it
yeah,
was a monstrous food the ball. But like you don't know. Like they are good at home. And I suppose Hattie, that's kind of part of it from, your perspective. Like it's very hard to nail down home advantage in this tournament because even more so than the men's, it is literally there's so little between, say, the four teams, other than the big two historically. From a Welsh perspective, going to Belfast, I'm not going to say scared because that would be incredibly demeaning. No one is scared. Everyone, knows what they can do. But is it now an awful lot more daunting, having seen what Ireland have done in recent years, where should have beaten France there last year, they've beaten Scotland, they beat Australia, they had good wins at home over Wales 2 years ago as well. Is it a little bit more daunting?
Um, it's always weird when we play Ireland because when the pendulum swings, it swings massively. So if Wales are in ascendancy, the scoreline is massive. If Ireland are in the ascendancy, the scoreline is massive. It's never a close game. It always feels to be a bit of a blowout. And sometimes it swings in a direction you're not expecting. I remember the home game 2 years ago where you absolutely destroyed us. Or your home game that you destroyed us. And nobody was expecting it, and everybody was so shocked that it happened from a Welsh fan's perspective. But then I know that 2 years before that, or a year before that, where we blew you guys away, it was the same. So it's always a very peculiar game. And I have to be honest, with this Welsh team, I don't really know what I'm going to see on Saturday. And until I see what I see on Saturday, I don't know how the rest of the competition's going to go. It it's a really bizarre tournament this year. I think, the French team is quite bizarre. And they have picked a 23 for this weekend that is interesting. I think that Italy could be a dark horse. So I think out of any of recent Six Nations victories or recent Six Nations competitions, if you exclude England from it, I think it's pretty open. So I don't really know what's going to happen when we travel to play you, to be honest.
Yeah, and that is, another 4 or 5 weeks away, and it's easier to get caught up. And like there is, and Alva, you probably notice it more than I do because I'm, heading the stand of URC content for on a daily basis. But there's a growing excitement. It's like this is going to be the year that we really like show to everyone. But obviously, Scotland have reason to be hopeful, Wales have reason to be hopeful, Italy have reason to be hopeful. But of course, we do have a game on Saturday, and I do want to, well, not finish on that. We get quick predictions at the very end. But the Ireland team and the England team were named today, and Ireland have included two debutants in Eilish Caolán and Katie Whelan on the bench. But the starting team reads as follows, and for Hattie and Ailbhe, if you haven't tuned in, I am firmly a 15-9, 1-8 team sheet reader. I'm sorry, that's just the way that's how I was brought up.
We forgive you.
As long as you don't do it with photos like Scotland did today, because that was
Oh no.
very upsetting to me
No, I
personally.
don't like the Instagram where you have to like swipe 3 times to get the full team. It's like, no,
Yeah,
That
kind of
bothers
like
me. The
that's
Red
too far.
Roses did that, and I'm like, where's my team sheet?
Yeah.
Singular.
yeah. I mean, Caolan's
Leinster
a
do it.
Munster supporter. They only discovered photos like 2 seasons ago, didn't
See, legally, I can't say anything because I know most of the people on that team. Um, but the Ireland team starting at fullback is Stacey Flood with Vicky Ellis-Kinlan and Bavin Parsons on the two wings. As of course we should know, Eve Higgins and Aoife Dalton are the centres. Emily Lane and Dan O'Brien are the halfbacks. I should mention we forgot Emily Lane as being one of the captains as well during the Celtic Challenge. Should probably throw her in there as well. Elena Perry, Cleena Maloney MacDonald and Linda Dugang are the front row. Dorothy Wall and Fiona Chute are in the second row with Brittany Hogan, Erin King, the captain, and Aoife Wafer in the back row. Slight side tangent. Did anyone see an Instagram story today where Aoife Wafer was in a leg brace and think it's so over, or was that because Katrina Finn put up an Instagram story and I was like, no, we're doomed,
I
but it's
saw
okay.
that she was in like what is usually used as like an MCL brace. And I
Mm.
was like, why are they showing this picture? Don't show her weakness.
I think everybody knows that she's got some dodgy knees.
Ah,
I
sure.
think she's held together with duct tape, but it's fine.
Yeah, well, aren't we all? She is younger than the rest of us, but
they? The
still,
sign of a good back row, though, to be fair, when they're
that's true.
Yeah,
And
battling
literally,
themselves as well as others.
now that you
yeah.
say it, Brittany Hogan had surgery after the World Cup. Erin King missed the World Cup through injury, and Aoife Wafer almost missed the whole World Cup through injury, and Dorothy Wall did. So let's that's the last of bad omens. The bench, smiling assassin Neve Jones starts it off with Neve O'Dowd, debutante Eilish Cahill, Ruth Campbell, Grace Moore, debutante in waiting as well, Katie Whelan, Nancy McGillivray, and Anna McGann. Alva, it's a different team to what a lot of us would have expected. Granted, Sam Monaghan and Naoimh Riley injuries were confirmed after, but Vicky Ellis-Kinlan has got the nod over Anna McGann, for instance. Fiona Chute's back in the second row. Obviously there's two debutants in there. Nancy McGillivray gets the nod on the bench as well, which shows how high esteem that they hold her in. It was the same in the World Cup quarter final. What's your overall thoughts on this 23?
I think it's a very strong 23. I think there's obvious people that you're going to name in every single team. Straight away get the jersey. Linda Dugang, you're never not giving her that jersey. Um, you're looking at again our centres, Eve Dalton, Eve Higgins, absolutely getting their jerseys. I was secretly hoping that we would see Stacey Flood pushed. Um, with Niamh Gallagher from Trailfinders coming in. Um, she's only 19, but my God, is she performing for Trailfinders? Somebody, all the confidence in the world. I think it could happen throughout this competition. But Stacey Flood is such a good operator. She's really, really good at kind of hitting the line. Great boot herself as well. So, I think that's kind of a sure thing. Cleena Maloney MacDonald, I would have predicted this over Neve Jones for a variety of reasons. Cleena Maloney MacDonald has a lot of power against a big pack. But also herself and Neve Jones are both carrying injuries kind of at the start of this year. Cleena Maloney MacDonald came back first from injury. Niamh Jones is a little fresher back for Gloucester Hartpury, but Cliona Maloney McDonald scored a hat-trick, I think, in her like second game back for Chiefs. So, she is on form, and fabulous to see her getting her 50th cap against her wife. I absolutely love women's sport for all of these relationship stories. Um, then seeing the likes of, Noddy on the bench, absolutely expected. Eilish Cahill, Ruth Campbell, Grace Moore, huge operators, really experienced players to come off the bench. And I think that's probably one of the points that Scott Beeman wants to make, is that we have depth on that bench. We're not hopefully going to tire after 60 minutes. We're going to have fresh legs coming on, just like the kind of bomb squad that England have, and hopefully we can keep going, and until the 80th minute.
Yeah, no, definitely. And funny you mentioned Nadia. I got the chance to interview her before the World Cup last year, and just an unbelievable character. Now, there's a lot of unbelievable characters in this team, but she is just absolutely amazing. I have so much time for her. But certainly there's an element of the bomb squad and there's an element of all that. Um, Hattie, you've watched an awful lot of these players across Celtic Challenge and PWR this season. You'll
Mhm.
have obviously seen, Aoife Wayford running tries for fun, Erin King running tries for fun, you know, Aoife Dalton and Eve Higgins running tries for fun. It's not all about the tries, I just like saying it, but there's a lot of Irish players who are coming in on the back of a pretty good winter campaign, which I think is the
Mm.
most important part of all this.
Yeah, definitely. It's a real shame that there aren't that. I think there's one Irish qualified player in Loughborough Lightning, but I do get to see these people in person, and it always shocks me how tiny Niamh Jones is in real life. She is absolutely minuscule. Um, but yeah, so many are coming off a really good campaign. I think that also probably reflects why you're not seeing certain players and why you're seeing others. Like Ruth Campbell to me would have been a player that I probably, if I had to pick off the top of my head, I would have been like, oh, well, England are maybe a little bit less experienced in their second row in this game. But she hasn't played as many games as the other two, so it does make sense that they're picked ahead of her. Dorothy Wall has had an insane campaign for Chiefs. She has been unreal. However, it's mostly been at six. So it is a little bit
That's
interesting.
that's arguably a concern because I would have thought coming into this we'd probably be looking at Fiona Chute at six as well, having had such a good World Cup and a lot of Celtic challenge there. So we're kind of
Yeah.
falling into the bracket of having a lot of half lock options there. I know Grace
Yeah.
Moore doesn't really play a lot of second row, but she's a similar mold. Look, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's like you'd like a little bit more variety, wouldn't you?
And I have been quite critical in the past of Ireland's line out, and I do think that it has issues, and I think it's just a timing issue. From having seen it in person, I literally just think that there is a issue with the lift. Um and sorry, like it's just timing. Um but then if you don't have a specialist lock calling the line out, then
Yeah.
maybe that's your issue. So that is my one thing I would say is maybe okay, I understand picking off form, but actually was Ruth Campbell maybe a better option? Because she's an absolute menace when it comes to disrupting a line out.
Mm.
Actually, and going up against England, who they are, they're missing their number one hooker through pregnancy. They're missing their three favorite lock options through pregnancy. That's a really good area to target for any of the Six Nations teams. I maybe would have gone with Ruth Campbell for that reason. But I mean, at least your blind sides that are playing lock are actually quite tall. Because when Wales do it, they're like 5'5".
Yeah, that's true.
I think some of the decision around the second row though is, again, we're just flooded with really really good
Back
back row
rowers.
players, and it's like,
Mm,
okay, get your best players on the pitch regardless of position, but also shoot stature wise, she's a powerful tall player. The same with Dorothy Wall, and big character. So I think it's kind of really trying to come up against England physically speaking. I think Ruth Campbell, she doesn't have that physical presence as much, but I think you're right. I think we will potentially lack in that line out, that we're just not
And, and
quite gonna have it.
and it sucks because it's probably the thing, like, over the last couple of years, I'm like, why is this Irish line out not working? And I do think
Mm,
part of that is the choice to, Niamh Jones being the preferred hooker. She is an absolute menace around the park, but her set piece just isn't as good as Clee. So
yeah.
But that
Mm.
happens. You
Yeah.
make those choices, you make those decisions. That's a choice that coaches make. They decided that the positive outweighs the negative there. But yeah, it seems like it's going to be another year of an interesting line out.
Yeah, I suppose the one thing there that probably Alan O'Connor or Scott Beam would say is when we have Aaron King back, and when Aaron King was on the field in last year's Six Nations, our lineout ran a lot better because
Mm.
she is that pure sevens athlete that you can just I know it's not true in the modern game, right? But it's kind of the sense of you can just throw her up. Like it's that kind of a thing. And like even the fact that they went with Elena Perry over Nevo Dowd, you could argue Nevo Dowd's a better scrummager. Perry brings more power. Similar with Maloney McDonald's, similar with going with Wall and shoot the second row. But then at the same time, Alba, you know more about timescales. Ruth Campbell has had an injury recently. Obviously, Sive McGrath has had an injury recently. She probably would have been in this side. You've mentioned, a few
Mm.
others as well. David, should just kind of get into the Irish backline for a minute because I know you're chomping at the bit to talk about the two centres and more. Um, it's kind of what we expected, but I think the selection of Vicky Ellis-Kinlan on the wing, it's probably twofold. Number one, she probably brings more of a replacement for Emily Costigan in terms of a raw speedster, but also Anna McGann played a bit at centre in the Celtic Challenge, and they're probably looking at her versatility, holding it back. And if you're going to be so strategic about the bench, which you have to be, this decision kind of makes a little bit more sense. Even if, for people who only watched them last year, you might not realize just how good Vicky Adams-Kindle is.
Yeah, it's kind of like the never-ending curse of anyone who's slightly too versatile in the backs. You're really lining yourself up to wind up in a 23 jersey, which you can have a great career from there. But yeah, it can be a bit frustrating to not just nail down one of the positions. It does make total sense. Like if you're going to be clever about the bench to have that there because it means you can slot someone in with minimal disruption. And yeah, like I think at the end of the day, we've gone for different wingers and you know different wingers bring different things, but pace you can't really put a price on it when it's out wide. Like when you have that space, you want to be able to take advantage of it. There's nothing more frustrating than to have the space and just to know the player or the player knows themselves that that's just not in their wheelhouse to take full advantage of it. So when you've gone to the effort of creating space out wide, you want to make sure that you have the kind of weapon out there that can take advantage of it. So from that point of view, it makes complete sense. I'm a big fan of I'm actually a big fan of the 10-15 combo. I know Stacey Flood played a little bit at 10 before, but I just think it's such an advantage to have two players in those two positions who are both such good kickers. It just gives so many options when it comes to both exiting and attacking. So I'm really happy to see those two in there. And then yeah, like I started like Higgins and Dalton in the center. It's just such a good pairing, and the kind of the energy that Eve Higgins brings to her play, very similar to the energy she brings off the pitch. Like it's exactly the kind of thing you want, and like it'll hopefully carry through the game. Anna McGann, I'm not sure at what point in the game we see her come on, but certainly for the first 60 70 minutes, I just Eve Higgins is going to light up the middle of the pitch, and hopefully that kind of sets the tone for the rest of that back line. And it's mad to have gotten that far through it and not have mentioned Bevan Parsons. Still a phenomenal athlete, still can bring that super pace, but also with quite a bit of strength in her carry as well. So hopefully, no matter which way we end up going, we should have the kind of the weaponry out there to take advantage of the space that I think O'Brien and Flood will be able to create.
Yeah, it's mad to think that Bevan Parsons is still only 24. Like she's
It's
still
disgusting. I hate.
it's still a
Come on,
relative
like
newbie in the grand
yeah.
scheme of things. And I know she made her debut at 16 or 17, so obviously
16
there's that.
against
But
Wales.
against Wales, yeah, thank you very much. Couldn't remember whether it was 16 or 17. I knew I was still in school and she was the year below me, so it was somewhere in there around there. Which to say it
Uh,
out loud actually makes it sound more insane now that I say it. But we'll get on to the Red Roses team for just a minute before we kind of wrap things up because they are the world champions. They deserve their credit, etc., etc., etc. They start with number 15, Ellie Kildun, number 14, Jess Breach, and I've been waiting to say this all day. Number 13, a Welsh woman captaining Wales in Megan Jones. Number 12 is Lita Rowland. Number 11, Claudia Maloney MacDonald, who, as Alva said, is the wife of Ireland hooker Kleena. Holly Atchison and Lucy Parker are at halfback. Kelsey Clifford, Amy Cockane, and Sarah Byrne are at the front row. It's Morena Talling and Lily Ives Campion in the second row. Maddie Funati, Sadia Cabea, and Alex Matthews are in the back row with Connie Powell, Mackenzie Carson, Maud Muir, Henley Chichi, Abby Burton, Natasha Hunt, Zoe Harrison, and Emma Singh on the bench. Hattie, I'll turn to you first. You can get your Megan Jones hour out of the way first if you want to. You can come on to it at the end. It's still like this is where 15-9 really kills because it's Ellie Kildon and Jess Breach first, and it's a little bit scary.
Yeah. I mean, I have to be honest though, I wouldn't say, unfortunately, I understand why Claudia's playing. It's a great opportunity for her and her wife. This is great. And to be perfectly honest, you can switch anybody into that, any of the options that England have got into that back line. But I wouldn't necessarily say that Jess Breach and Claude are the two inform England wingers in their squad. But the two that they've got that are in form, one has like two caps and the other one is uncapped. But I would have loved to have seen Bo Westcombe-Evans and Millie David, Millie Wiz from Bristol playing. They are, no, I wouldn't have actually liked to have seen them play because they are so fast. It is unbelievable and they are just absolutely lethal. Bo Westcombe-Evans is a Loughborough player and she managed to score, I think it was like 4 tries in like 60 minutes. It was absolutely unreal. I think it was against like Quins a few weeks ago. There is a lot of power and a lot of really, really big ball carriers in that England squad. I would be a little bit scared about Haniela Latui coming off the bench. She is just a complete and utter wrecking ball, and she's very large. But that back row, I think I said earlier to my co-host Julia that the England back row could be considered a war crime, because it is just going to do so much damage.
But not this week. This week they're going to be equally matched. That's the I know they're big and they're scary, but that's the line we have to kind of get across, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you've got Alex Matthews, double Olympian, double world champion.
Yeah.
Sadia Kabir and Maddie Fenati both have been nominated for Breakout Player of the Year. Sadia Kabir was Player of the Final at this year's World Cup.
Yeah, but we have Brittany Hogan, so just throwing it
Yeah,
out there.
yeah,
I don't.
that's
This
a
is what you
scary
say.
back row.
Yeah, this is the
Very.
thing when you're up against the Red Roses, isn't it? Where it's like, look, they are very, very good. They don't have weaknesses. But at the same time, Alva, Ireland did manage to keep them scoreless for 34 minutes last year, and if they want to improve on this year's performance, you are looking at meeting them at the gain line, going toe to toe, playing, you know, when you get the opportunity to play, absolutely do. But it's about the intent that Ireland bring this weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I think they have to be very strategically clever in that intent. Kicking the leather off the ball is well and good and has worked quite well for us. And David, you spoke about, Dan O'Brien and Stacey Flood being very, very good at that, but they have to be perfect this weekend. You know, I think kicking the ball long to Ellie Kildon, she just laps that up. She can't wait for a bit of space. She'll boot the ball back. She'll do a Gary Owen. She'll run at you. She'll find space. She is incredibly dangerous, and we can't risk just offering her those opportunities. We have to be able to front up really, and or get the ball into touch. I wouldn't be risking, 50-22s all day because if you don't hit them, you're just, offering it to her on her plate. I think, the difference we're going to see between England and Ireland is that England are really, really good with their back line in terms of their creativity and the communication. They do really, really well at getting Eddie Kildon into that attacking line. They do really, really well at getting their wingers off their wings. We don't do particularly well at getting our wingers off their wings. Baveen Parsons can be, come looking for the ball and do it quite well. But typically we haven't done that. They've stuck to their wings, so it's a little bit 2D. I've a feeling we'll build on that a little bit. But in terms of, England, do they have a weakness? Is there a weakness? I'm going to be a bit controversial here and say yes, and it's Ellie Kildun. And a lot of people would just say, what are you on about? When have you seen Ellie Kildun for England having to defend? She doesn't defend nearly as good as she attacks. You see it with Quins that she can be found out a little bit. She can be, second guessing. She can miss her tackles. She isn't nearly as good. So I think run at her. I think send our heavy hitters at her. Look for those mismatches. If we get that opportunity, absolutely go for it. I do love though that it's kind of a tale as old as time with England and the men's and the women's that they have many many tens and they go sure one of you can go 12 and that's what they're doing here. And I think they have so many creative operators there, at 10, at 12, that they have, Lucy Packer, who I cannot stand, but is a good, ball delivering nine. I think there's lots to hope for, but lots to be really, really, really scared about.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And look, it is you could definitely point out. I think the fact that because of England being so dominant, you can always look at the fact of what if things don't go their way? But the only thing is, it is 75,000 people jammed into Twickenham this weekend, and referee Clara Minorini is going to be under pressure to give them the benefit of the doubt in a lot of these games. And look, to be fair, one of the things we talked about at the last World Cup was the fact that England, Canada, and New Zealand got a lot of 50-50s in their favour in this World Cup, in the World Cup just gone. And you'd hope we don't see something similar across the entirety of these Six Nations, but it was a genuine concern from people that it almost felt like, and yeah, this was my conspiracy theory, that there was almost an element of we need to get the big four into the semi-finals. We need to get all them there. And look, that doesn't excuse a TMO not seeing a bite, but it would go some ways to explaining it. I'm clearly over it, clearly, very much
None
so.
of us are ever.
Then
No.
no, no, absolutely not. It'll last a long time. We're going to get you a little bit of predictions before we go. And it is a strange one because I feel like we're all going to say that they're going to win Six Nations. So I'm going to mix it up a small bit. Hattie, I'm going to let you start. Who is the one player that you are most looking forward to watch?
Oh, that's a good one. It caught me off guard as well. Oh, there are a few. Um, oh, oh, and I just have to pick one.
You
I'm
Yeah.
can you
going
can
to.
pick two
It's
if
like
you
being a
need to.
sweet shop.
I've got two. The first is Seren Singleton from Wales. If you've been watching the Celtic Challenge, you will have seen her. She is a former scrum half who moved out to the wing, um, which does remind me of another Welsh scrum half who once moved out to the wing. Don't know if you ever heard of him. He was all right. Um, she is rapid. She is an incredible defender. She is incredibly powerful despite being like 5 feet tall. So I'm very, very excited to see her. She gets her first cap this weekend. Also, Sit Atea Benocchi. I've absolutely butchered her name, and I do apologise to her. But the Italian scrum half, I'm very, very excited to see her.
That's two good options. I did watch enough Celtic Challenge to know, but I really hope Dan Mooney isn't listening to this. I did listen to an awful lot of it on like split screen and on mute and different things. Now Dan has the voice of an angel, but I'm sorry, Dan, I do kind of have it on mute at times. That's the only thing. But two good options. I'm just gonna go Irish. I've been saying it to everyone who'd listened since the World Cup. I'm gonna say Katrina Finn. I think she is a star. I think I know it's boring, but it's going to be Sam against Jack all over again. It's going to be the versatile playmaker who takes the ball to the line, who can kick well, who happens to be from Munster, against the more kick-heavy, typical game managing 10 from Leinster. I know it's not going to get the same amount of coverage, thanks be to God, but I'm going to go to Katrina Finn. And if not, go with Aaron King, obviously. Oh, captain, my captain. Alva, who are you looking forward to watching?
So I'll give two, one Irish, one not Irish. For me, and she's only starting off the bench for Wales. And correct me if I pronounce this wrong, Hattie. Alop Piers.
Allow Pierce, yeah.
Yeah, she is. I don't know. I just can't wait to see her just run over people for fun. Um, great ball carrying. And then for Ireland, not starting at all, but across the competition, Niamh Gallagher, I already mentioned her. She's doing insane things for trail finders, kicking like 75% off the tee. And then her, phenomenal kicking game. I think at the weekend she did a grubber kick through from Meg Jones to score like an absolute worldie of a try. Confidence is ridiculous. So I would love to see her at some point in the competition. I expect we will.
Yeah, hopefully. David, final player or players to watch, seeing as we all kind of went multiple, I'll give you the scope.
No, you're really greedy. I'll go. There's the two Irish players are. I mean, Aoife Higgins, obviously, because I'm a backs man and a centres man, but Aoife Wafer, because it's very rare you're in a stadium and you can see people who don't know a player going in, know them going out straight away. And I remember it wasn't the first time I saw Aoife Wafer, but the first time I saw some other people who'd never seen her before play, and like the impact she left. It's all in the scrum cap. You gotta have distinctive
Yeah.
headgear, but like just the way she carries, the damage she can do, it's unreal. So I'm really looking forward to seeing her play. Hopefully, I see her play live. Hope she lines out in the games that I see as well. And then if I had to pick one from not from Ireland, Sarah Byrne, just because she does massive. I hope she doesn't do to us, but she does massive amounts of damage. And yeah,
Yeah, she does.
gotta love a prop.
I'm going to throw to you, Hattie, first. I was going to ask for number of predictions in terms of wins. I'll let you go with Wales first. How many games do you think Wales are going to win, first of all?
I think a realistic good campaign for us is 2 wins.
That's achievable, isn't it?
I think it is. I think, we've got Scotland are injury ravaged and they've had about 1,000,001 uh retirements. So I have some hope. We're then playing Italy at home. It's the last game. But then Italy this year, I feel like they're going to be a dark horse. So I obviously England and France, I don't think, that's a million miles off. Ireland, I have to be honest, I don't see it happening. Um, so I think two if we're having a good year.
Two was the amount that Ireland had last year, and we were all, jumping into the World Cup. So I certainly wouldn't write it off with how competitive it is.
Mm.
David, if you were to put a number on it between 0 and 5, sorry, between 1 and 5, you're not allowed to say zero. Between 1 and 5, how many games are Ireland going to win the Six Nations?
Ooh, at least three.
At least three. Okay. I'll let you sit on that because I feel like it's going to be a similar answer. So I'll let you just sit on that. Ailbhe, how many games do you think Ireland are going to win?
I'm renowned for not being an optimist, but I'm saying three. I'm saying why the
Okay.
hell not?
I'm just going to beat you to it. I'm just going to say four. Okay. Like, why not? Like, let's go for it.
Can
Let's go
I
win in Claremont.
can I
Go on,
make a
Hattie.
wild prediction?
You absolutely can. The more, the merrier.
I think you're going to win 3 games. I think you're
Okay.
going to beat France, but I think you'll lose to Italy.
Ooh.
Oh.
I don't think that's an impossibility at all. I think that that's quite possible and would be very Irish to be like, yeah, oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's in reverse. So I suppose the one thing is it'll be like, oh, hey, we're back
Yeah, true.
that spectrum. The only thing I will say is typically when I go to Ireland matches, and I know I was in Brighton, typically when I go to Ireland international matches, they don't lose. So just throwing it out there. So, and I'm going to be, well,
Oh,
hope
I'm
to be.
buying you all the tickets.
Yeah, you're kind of duty bound to go now, aren't
I've
You going
I've
to Italy, yeah?
I have I'm planning to go to the game against Italy and Galway. I've once tweeted before, it's like well, if this streak continues, they have to get me to the next World Cup quarterfinal. Like it's the only
you?
way. It has to be done. Granted, I went to a lot of like Italy, Japan, Fiji games. That's beside the point. I'm gonna go with 4 wins. Fuck it. Like why not? Like we're on the podcast. I just have huge hopes that if this Irish team stays fit, they have as much as everything else, and it's the one word we haven't used and it is overused. There's a little bit more cohesion in that Irish team than there is in others. Like yes, there's no Sam Monaghan this week, there's no Adele McMahon, but apart from that, Amy Lee Costigan, that's kind of it. It's a very cohesive, very similar team. Of the retirements. I think it was Nicole Fowley and who am I forgetting,
Emer
Alba?
Corey
Emer
Fallon.
Corey Fallon. So like only one that was actually got World Cup reps last time out. So I genuinely do believe Ireland are in a very good place coming into this. And the last question, because again, I didn't want to get into, oh, England to win, England to win. Who is your second, third, and fourth? Because I think that's the mosh pit. Hattie, who is your second, third, and fourth in this year's Six Nations? And you can't say England for the lols, of course, but you know.
So at the beginning of this year, I predicted that France would win the Six Nations. Having now looked at the team sheets for France, I'm not convinced. Um, I think it'll. I think we'll. This competition's going to be a bit weird. I don't think we're going to have like a. I don't think we're going to have a Grand Slam decider on the final day. So I will go Ireland, Italy, France.
That's a big fall from grace for France.
Do you
Fairness.
know? Because I made this very strange spreadsheet and I really had a good look, and I was like, this is a really weird team. And then I looked at the team sheet today. They've got 6 new caps playing on Saturday, and most of them are in the back three, which if I was going to play Italy, that would not be where I would experiment personally.
Yeah, no, that's
And
fair.
they're
It is.
paying a lock at 7.
Yeah, South Africans do it. The one thing I will say is it's very French that everyone's like, oh, we've got 2 new caps, 3 new caps, 4 new caps, and France go, ha, most. We've got 6. It's the most French thing possible in any scenario.
And it'd be very French for them to just absolutely prove me wrong, and it'll be the best squad I've ever seen in my life. But
Potentially.
yeah,
Yeah, no, they
it
have
could go either way.
they absolutely can do that as well. And you never know, they may limp into the opening round like they did against Ireland last year, where they were off the pace in the opening round, and then it can get a little bit hairy then. Ailbhe, who is your second, third, and fourth this year?
For me, it's Ireland, France, and I'm just going to be a bit of an old romantic and say Scotland for the crack. I'd like to see them just go meh and crack one out and just be fabulous, except against us.
Naturally, yeah, no,
Naturally.
absolutely, naturally. We're like, I don't have a ticket yet, but like we're paying to be there, so this is obviously the natural conclusion. David, you're second, third, and fourth in this year's Six Nations.
Oh, I hate when this happens. I would say with Alba. Ireland, France, Scotland. That's my three. I think, yeah, I like obviously contingent on no, I think Ireland has a consistency this year, and I think France might drop one. Hopefully against us. And that should put us in good position. And then yeah, no, I think Scotland will, yeah, give it a good
I,
rattle. But
I've already said 4 wins for Ireland, so I have to go Ireland second.
yeah.
I'll go with France third. And because someone has been hyping up the Italians in this podcast for the last hour and a bit, I'm just going to go with Italy. Because why
It's a
not? And
really good squad.
they are a good team. Now, famously, David usually takes up the Italian supporter role, so the fact that he
It's true.
didn't
I'm also
also
usually
entice me.
the massive optimist as well. You completely put
Yeah.
me on all.
Yeah, sorry about that, David. Go on, Hattie, you were going to say?
I was just going to say, I'm also known for being horrendously wrong about all
Oh,
predictions.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
You're in good
Same.
company.
yeah.
Play fantasy rugby against me if you wanted to be guaranteed at winning something.
You'd be surprised.
I
You'd
actually
be
went.
very
I
surprised.
went in a battle of the styles against Keen on the I think we said stats against Vibes, and Vibes did embarrassingly badly when it came to predictions. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean
Keen won that round.
that man loves his stats, but I
He
think,
does.
yeah, no, it's vibes sometimes are off. But thank you very much to everyone for joining me. I'll plug the podcast one last time. Ailbhe's Mother Rucker podcast is out each and every week of the Six Nations for all things Irish rugby. Hattie is one of the brilliant co-hosts of the Women's Rugby Treehouse. I always get confused because it's WRT and I just think Welsh Rugby Twitter. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's in my brain. But
Yeah.
for all things Women's Six Nations, you all know who David is. He is our Leinster fan who is patiently waiting for a clash with Sale this Saturday. It's a big Saturday for you, David. Kind of
Yeah.
forgot to mention that. It's a big Saturday for you, but you'll win. It's fine. And from me, Caolán. So thanks very much to everyone for tuning in. Please do make sure to like, subscribe, and give us your predictions. But until next time, thank you very much, and we'll chat to you very, very soon.